Everybody ready? Guys ready? All right. All right. Good morning. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices at this time. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear a mask if you believe it is necessary or required for your own well-being. Before we begin today's meeting, I would like to welcome our newest board member, David Hinkernell. Dave has been appointed by Representative Brian Cutler and was sworn in on February 22nd. Dave brings great experience with him to the board. He served as a member of the State House of Representatives from 2002 to 2022, representing the 98th Legislative District in Lancaster and Dauphin counties. Before that, Dave served as the clerk of courts for Lancaster County and also held numerous key staff positions in the House of Representatives prior to being elected to serve in that body. Without a doubt, Dave's experience, knowledge, and perspective will prove to be a great asset to the board. So please join me in welcoming Commissioner Hinkernell. With 7 board members present, I'd like to call today's meeting to order. In addition to the 7 board members, we also have our ex officio members, Kristen Heidingsfelder representing Pat Brown, Acting Secretary for the Department of Revenue, Fred Strathmeyer representing Russell Redding, Acting Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, and Jennifer Langen representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to now ask everyone to please stand and join me for a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have presentations of service awards for the Gaming Control Board employees that will be made by our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole.
Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. This is here because volume or audio would not appear on the live stream without the microphone. Otherwise, my voice usually projects well enough for everyone to hear, but I'll use the microphone. On behalf of staff, Commissioner Hinkernell, I'd like to welcome you to the Gaming Control Board also. We're looking forward to working with you. So today is a great day because we get to recognize employees who have reached the milestone of 10 years of service with our agency or 15 years of service with our agency. So as you can tell from that, we started this program 5 years ago when we began recognizing employees who had reached 10 years. And it's kind of indicative that now that we're 5 years down the road, we have more honorees who have reached 15 years than who have reached 10. We have 8 who have reached 15 years and 2 who have reached 10 years. So it's we do this on a quarterly basis, and it's fun because, you know, what can any entity do, you know, without solid employees who work hard, who are dedicated and loyal, and stay with us as their employer. We're very grateful for that. We have one honoree who is here, and I'm going to recognize him personally. Dustin Miller, could you stand up, please, Dustin? Good morning. Thank you so much for participating today. So Dustin was hired on March the 3rd, 2008, as an Assistant Enforcement Counsel 1. Dustin's outstanding work on all aspects of regulatory enforcement has contributed to him moving up the ranks very quickly, and his current position is Deputy Chief Enforcement Counsel. Dustin, we really appreciate all of your work, your loyalty, and your dedication. Congratulations, and thank you very much for your service. And we have this certificate of appreciation for you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. So, rather than act like I'm an MC, I'm going to sit down for the rest of these recognitions. Move that down for me. So I would like to recognize 7 additional employees who have reached 15 years of service with the board. From the Office of Chief Counsel, we have Denise Miller Tashuti, who was hired on February 2nd of 2008 as a senior chief counsel. From the Bureau of Casino Compliance, we have 6 employees. 3 of them are all assigned to Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse. The first is Trevor Hassenbein, who is our casino compliance supervisor at Hollywood Casino Grantville. The first 3, Trevor Hassenbein, Mark Snowberger, and Peter Tuzzato, all were hired on the exact same day, 15 years ago, January 7th, more than 15 years now, January 7th of 2008. And they were all assigned to the same casino. It must have been opening up around that time. So we have Trevor Hassenbein, we have Mark Snowberger, a casino compliance representative, and also Peter Tuzzato, a casino compliance representative. We also have Sean Hughes, a casino compliance representative assigned to Mohegan Sun Casino, Mohegan Sun Casino, and he was hired on March 17th of 2008. And we also have John Seitzinger, who was a casino compliance representative also at Mohegan Sun, who was hired on April 21st, 2008. And finally, we have William Ryan, a casino compliance representative assigned to Wind Creek Casino, and he was hired on April 21st, 2008. So we have also, I'd like to recognize 2 employees who have reached their 10 years of service. First, Leo Plensky, who was a casino compliance representative at Live Casino Philadelphia, was hired on February 25th, 2013. And Daryl Roan, who was hired on March the 4th, 2013, as a casino compliance representative. And Daryl has been assigned to Harrah's Philadelphia Casino. So we'll give them a hand of applause. It is my understanding that a lot of our staff tune in on the public meetings, which I think is great because it's important for them to learn what business is actually carried out at the public meetings. Thank you. But I'm going to stay here because I'm up next.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank all of you for your years of service to the board and to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, March 21st, to discuss personnel matters, pending litigation, and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. Our first order of business this morning is the consideration of the board meeting transcript and minutes from January 25th. May I have a motion to approve the transcript and minutes of the board's January 25th, 2023 meeting?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the minutes and transcripts of January 25th, 2023.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted. Now we would again hear from Executive Director Kevin O'Toole.
Thank you. For my executive director's report this morning, I would like to make a few comments about compulsive and problem gambling. Last month, the board recognized March of 2023 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and we're still in March, so I have 10 days left or so, and I did have some comments that I wanted to make on that topic. It's a topic, as we all know, that everyone takes extremely seriously, as they should. There's certainly a lot of initiatives from everyone associated with the gambling industry to deal in a responsible way with compulsive gambling. So a report was recently commissioned, which I looked at, commissioned by the National Council on Problem Gambling, NCPG. And this report described the details of the NCPG's review of 7 jurisdictions. These were the jurisdictions who had begun operating online casino games. And the review was to determine if those jurisdictions take adequate steps to address compulsive and problem gambling standards. So Pennsylvania, as one of those 7 jurisdictions, was discussed within this report. It's an extensive report, 95 pages. But while Pennsylvania scored very well on that review, what caught my attention from that report was one statement made by NCPG, and that statement, I'll quote, a jurisdiction, quote, a jurisdiction should create a comprehensive public health strategy regarding gambling addiction that covers 4 areas. Number 1, prevention. Number 2, education. Number 3, treatment. And number 4, research services. End of quote. That statement reflects that it takes more than just a casino regulatory agency such as the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board to truly to be truly effective at providing the needed resources for addressing the various issues of compulsive and problem gambling. Rather, it takes collaboration with other entities within our jurisdiction to be able to have a comprehensive public health strategy regarding gambling addiction. Fortunately, we have that collaboration. For education, in Pennsylvania, it is the Council on Compulsive Gambling of PA that provides most, if not all, land-based casinos with required annual training covering all employees of the casino who interact with gamblers on a day-to-day basis. On an annual basis, they receive compulsive and problem gambling training, and is done by the experts at the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania. And also from an educational standpoint, when gambling expansion was passed to allow for eligible truck stops to engage in VGT gambling, the legislature put a specific provision in there that all employees of the VGT establishments who were going to have any role in monitoring the VGT rooms required training on compulsive and problem gambling. And our Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling created a training module. It lasts 30 to 45 minutes, and it goes through what a person who is dealing with gamblers, what they should do if they're encountered with questions and concerns, or they see things that might be significant to a person exhibiting compulsive and problem gambling tendencies. We have, to date, as of the end of February, we've trained 991 employees in that compulsive and problem gambling. Second item would be treatment. So treatment in Pennsylvania is the role of the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, also known as DDAP. So DDAP distributes grants throughout the Commonwealth to the single county authorities so that all persons who need treatment for compulsive gambling can get that needed treatment, even if the gambler has no insurance or inadequate insurance. So the legislature established the Compulsive and Problem Gambling Fund within the act, and it's required to be funded a minimum of $2 million per year, or 0.002% of gross terminal revenue. Gross terminal revenue is a term that refers to the revenue that comes from slot machines. So almost every year, the greater amount is the 0.002% of that revenue, and it can get as high as $5 million or more. So it's from that funding that DDAP can do their required procedure of accepting grants from the single county authorities to assist to assist the treatment providers so that they can give this treatment without worrying about who's going to pay for it. And research services, an interesting category. The key participant at this point is Penn State University. Penn State University was awarded a contract through DDAP to study what effect, if any, does interactive online gaming have on the issue of compulsive and problem gambling. PSU recently issued its second annual report covering its research and analysis for the calendar year 2022. From the area of prevention, the prevention of compulsive and problem gambling is one of the primary areas that the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board plays a very important role, especially through the self-exclusion program, which has benefited thousands of gamblers by administering a period of exclusion from gambling from all casinos in Pennsylvania, where the period of exclusion is selected by the gambler, whether it be 1 year, 5 years, or a lifetime. That self-exclusion program, again, is statutorily mandated, and it's been on in the Gaming Act from the beginning. And with the expansion of gambling into online, our Office of Chief Counsel and our Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling promulgated regulations approved by the board that provided for an extensive number of self-help options, including the ability of a gambler who's playing online to self-exclude themselves. No intervention by an agent of the government. They can do it all by themselves on their own computer, laptop, or iPhone. The only requirement is that they have to take a cooling off period for a minimum of 72 hours, and they can do it for longer periods of time as well. So we really put a lot of work into providing for a variety of different self-help techniques on the online area. So with the continued collaboration by and between the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania, the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, and most recently Penn State University, I am confident that our jurisdiction has a comprehensive public health strategy regarding gambling addiction. Now that phrase, comprehensive public health strategy regarding gambling addiction, you won't find that phrase anywhere in the Gaming Act. But a debt of gratitude also should be extended to the legislature, because all of these steps, except for the regulations that I mentioned, they come out of the Gaming Act. It's the General Assembly that every time gambling is approved and added to the Gaming Act, and at the beginning, when the Gaming Act was first enacted, compulsive and problem gambling issues are always addressed. Number one, it's always addressed from a funding standpoint. New gambling options are assessed funds that go into the compulsive or problem gambling fund, and also from an educational standpoint and from a prevention standpoint, and most recently from the research services. It's specifically required in the Act that DDAP engage in an entity with expertise in research to study the effect of interactive online gaming on the issues of compulsive and problem gambling. So that's my report for today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we will hear from Human Resources Director Danette Bixler-George.
Good morning, Chair, board members. The Office of Human Resources has one motion today for your consideration relative to the hiring of 3 individuals. The following 3 individuals have completed the PGCB interview process, drug screening, and background investigations. First, we have Crystal Miley, who has been selected as a licensing analyst in the Bureau of Licensing Employee Permitting Unit and is recommended for hire by Sean Hannon, Director of Licensing. Next, we have Tucker Hummel, who has been selected as a casino compliance representative for Hollywood Casino York. And finally, Matthew Chilton, who has been selected as a casino compliance representative for Parks Casino Shippensburg. Both are recommended for hire by Christopher Schroeder, Director of Casino Compliance. Unless you have any questions, I ask the board to consider a motion to approve the hiring actions as indicated.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the applicants for hire as proposed by the Human Resources Director.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danette. We will now hear from the Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today, the board has 4 petitions before it for consideration. The petitions will be decided on the documentary record by agreement of the parties because the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to the relief requested. In each of these matters, the board has, in advance of this meeting, been provided with all of the documents filed of record prior to today. The first petition before the board today is Bally, Pennsylvania LLC's petition for consideration to be a qualified gaming entity approved to hold interactive gaming certificates. Bally's Pennsylvania LLC is an indirect and wholly owned subsidiary of Bally's Corporation. Bally's is a global gaming, hospitality, and entertainment company with a portfolio of casinos, resorts, and online gaming businesses that provide customers with physical and interactive entertainment and gaming experiences, including traditional casino offerings, iCasino, online bingo games, sports wagering, daily fantasy sports, and free-to-play games. Bally's is now requesting the board consider their request to be identified as a qualified gaming entity and be awarded 2 interactive gaming certificates for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to offer non-peer-to-peer interactive games which simulate slot machines and non-peer-to-peer interactive games which simulate table games. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the petitioner's requests, subject to conditions outlined in its answer, many of which will have to be complied with prior to issuance of the certificates and Bally's going operational. Related to this petition, there is also a motion requesting that certain information in the record be maintained as confidential, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant Bally's Pennsylvania LLC's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order. I further move that petitioner's request for confidentiality be granted in part, the conditions of which shall also be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Next before the board is Novamatic AG's petition for approval of a transfer of an ownership interest. Novamatic AG is a licensed manufacturer of slot machines, table games, video gaming terminals, and sports wagering equipment. It also is licensed as an affiliate and a video gaming terminal affiliate due to possessing indirect ownership interests in Ainsworth Game Technology Incorporated, an interactive gaming and slot machine manufacturer. Novamatic AG is owned by Novo Invest GmbH, which has 5 individual owners, including Johann Graf. Mr. Groff is requesting to transfer his 75% interest in Novo Invest to a private foundation of which he is the sole beneficiary and sole member of the foundation's advisory board. The foundation has applied for affiliate licensure with the board. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to this request, subject to conditions that are outlined in its answer, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant Novomatic AG Novo Invest GmbH Novo Swiss AG's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The next petition before the board is a request to be removed from the board's self-exclusion list. On June 9th, 2009, an individual with the initials JB placed himself on the self-exclusion list and chose the lifetime self-exclusion option. In August of 2022, JB filed his request for removal from the list. However, he failed to submit the required problem gambling assessment form, and the Office of Enforcement Counsel initially objected to this request. Thereafter, in December of 2022, JB submitted the problem gambling assessment verification form signed by a certified assessment provider and confirming that an assessment of JB was performed and that problem gambling treatment was not recommended at that time. As a result of this assessment, the Office of Enforcement Counsel amended their answer stating that they had no objection to JB's request for removal from the self-exclusion list as 10 years had passed since his placement on the list. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant JB's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and that JB may be removed from the self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Hirkernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The final petition before the board today is a request for early removal from the, a second request for early removal from the self-exclusion list. On March 25th, 2018, an individual with the initials M&M met with the Bureau of Casino Compliance representative at Parks Casino, filled out the exclusion forms, and signed an acknowledgement placing himself on the self-exclusion list for a 5-year period. On December 27th, 2022, M&M filed his request for removal from the list, notwithstanding the term of his exclusion and the ability to take himself off the list without board approval being less than 3 months away. In January 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer objecting to the request for early removal. However, OEC in its answer state that it did not object to M&M's removal from the list following his 5-year exclusion period expiration, which will occur on March 25th, 2023, 48 hours from now. And as a result, this matter is now ready for the board's consideration with the recommendation that M&M come off the list effective March 25th, 2023.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hirkernell moves that the board grant M&M's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and that he shall be eligible for removal from self-exclusion list on March 26th, 2023.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, presenting withdrawals and reports and recommendations is Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next matter before the Board today pertains to several unopposed petitions to withdraw the applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: Jeffrey Berman, Yaniv Soroka, GVI LLC, Brian Bennett, Sinitis Nominees Limited, Oddspedia AD, USPC Holding Inc., Bicycle Holding Inc., Jean-Marie Joseph Auguste Hubert de Sommer, Kevin Burnitz, Victoria Jarman, Richard M. Pennington, Veralda A.B., Donald Richard Ryan, Roan DeGoro, Avraham Aronovitz, Clarissa Ann Dalton, David Kralius, Itai Yishak Pasner, Anton Songjae Lin, Yanim Schwartz, and Michael Kilduff. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to any of these withdrawals or surrenders. As a result, if the board chooses to grant the requests, it would be doing so without prejudice to the requester. These matters are all now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board are 6 reports and recommendations received from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record of each hearing, have been provided to the board in advance of today's meeting. Additionally, the persons involved have each been notified that the board is considering their matter today and that each have the ability to come forward and briefly address the board. If any of the persons who are the subject of these reports and recommendations would like to address the board, I would ask them to come forward when their matter is called. Joseph Petty is the first report and recommendation before the board today. Mr. Petty holds a gaming employee occupation permit and works as a security officer at Wind Creek Bethlehem Casino. On July 21st, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint to revoke Mr. Petty's permit, alleging that on March 28th, 2022, while gaming at Mount Airy Casino, he attempted to cash out the gaming chips of a self-excluded individual. A hearing in this matter was held on December 7th, 2022. OEC appeared and offered testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Petty appeared and testified on his own behalf. Mr. Petty testified that he had been playing with poker with an individual by the initials DB, and that DB was asked for identification after winning a large hand. However, DB did not have identification with him. Mr. Petty further testified that when he and DB left the poker table, DB handed his chips to Mr. Petty, saying he would be right back. Mr. Petty then went to go cash out the chips at the cage, but was approached by casino staff asking for his identification and DB's information. Mr. Petty asserted that he did not know that DB was on the self-exclusion list, and had he known so, he would not have brought him to the casino. Mr. Petty further testified that he loves his job at the casino and that he went to Wind Creek the next day and informed them of the incident that had happened the day before. Based upon the evidence received, the report and recommendation issued in this matter recommends that OEC's complaint to revoke Mr. Petty's permit be denied, as OEC failed to meet its burden regarding the revocation of Mr. Petty's permit. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that the Office of Enforcement Counsel's complaint for revocation be denied.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next report and recommendation stems from a request for removal from the self-exclusion list by a person with the initials SM. By way of background, on October 28th, 2019, SM met with a board representative at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh and placed herself on the self-exclusion list, choosing a 5-year exclusion period. On September 6th, 2022, SM filed a petition with the board requesting removal from the list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel subsequently filed an answer objecting to her request. A hearing in this matter was held on December 20th, 2022. OEC appeared presenting testimony and documentary evidence, and although receiving proper notice, SM failed to attend the hearing. Evidence presented by OEC showed that the board's representative conducted the mandatory interview with SM, explained the process of going on the self-exclusion list, and the consequences of the exclusion period options. Thereafter, all paperwork procedures were completed by SM, who then signed the acknowledgement selecting the 5-year self-exclusion. Subsequently, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that SM's request for removal from the list be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that SM remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Sally Wu's request for removal from the board's involuntary exclusion list. On June 15th, 2022, the board granted the Office of Enforcement Counsel's request to enter default judgment and place Sally Wu on the involuntary exclusion list. The underlying facts in this matter are that on November 3rd, 2021, while gaming at Presque Isle Downs Casino, Ms. Wu damaged the bill validator of a slot machine by spraying water into it. During the same visit, she then kicked and threw traffic cones in the parking lot. On November 7th, 2021, while visiting Presque Isle, she vandalized another slot machine by writing on the glass of the machine, striking the glass several times, and then pouring water into the bill validator. Upon being informed she was going to be banned from the casino for a year, she kicked the doors as she was leaving and threatened to blow up the casino. A hearing in this matter was held on November 9th, 2022. OEC and Ms. Wu appeared. and she testified on her own behalf. She testified that her statement about blowing up the casino was just a figure of speech and she never meant it to be a threat against the casino. Ms. Wu further stated that she doesn't want to go to Presque Isle Downs anymore, but would like to be able to visit other casinos in Pennsylvania or Ohio that she currently cannot enter due to being on the exclusion list. Subsequent to the hearing, the report and recommendation issued recommends denial of Ms. Ru's request, as she has not presented evidence of any extraordinary circumstance that would justify removing her early, or at least before the 5 years had run since she was placed on the list. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Sally Wu remain on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
DeAndre Smith is next before the board today. On August 29, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place DeAndre Smith on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Smith requested a hearing in the matter, which was held on November 10, 2022. OEC appeared at the hearing providing testimony and documentary evidence, and Mr. Smith failed to attend the hearing and it was held in his absence. Evidence presented at the hearing shows that on January 31st, 2022, while playing blackjack at Parks Casino, Mr. Smith and another patron got into a heated argument, which escalated into a physical altercation. Mr. Smith was criminally charged with harassment, but later found not guilty of those charges. He was permanently evicted from Parks as a result of this incident. A report and recommendation was issued recommending that DeAndre Smith be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list, and that matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that DeAndre Smith be placed on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Anna Truskin, who I believe is present. On August 11, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Anna Truskin on the involuntary exclusion list, alleging that on June 29, 2021, Ms. Truskin left her 14-month-old child unattended in her vehicle while she entered Valley Forge Casino and Resort. A hearing in this matter was held on November 2, 2022. Counsel for OEC appeared presenting testimonial, documentary, and surveillance evidence. Ms. Truskin also appeared and testified in her own behalf. Evidence provided at the hearing showed that on June 29, 2021, Ms. Truskin attempted to enter the casino with her infant child after a conversation with security officer. She went back to her vehicle and placed the child in the car. She then left the child in the car while she entered and exited the casino twice and talked on her phone outside the casino before returning to her vehicle. The child was unattended at that time for approximately 5 minutes. Ms. Truskin then drove off the casino property and returned approximately 1 hour later. Ms. Truskin left the child unattended in the vehicle in the valet parking lot while she entered Valley Forge, depositing money into her FanDuel online gaming account. Ms. Truskin then returned to the vehicle where she was met by a state police trooper and casino security. Ms. Truskin, at that point, was away from the vehicle for approximately 4 minutes. She was permanently evicted from the casino, and no criminal charges were filed against her based on these incidents. During the hearing, Ms. Truskin admitted to her actions, stating that she had made a terrible error in judgment. She further testified that at the time she was taking her child to a doctor's appointment, which was near the casino. She was taking advantage of a promotion that required her to make an in-person deposit into her account, and that she initially did not know she would not be able to bring her child into the casino with her. Ms. Truskin also indicated that she was able to see her car from where she was standing outside on the phone, and that she could remotely control the climate of the vehicle, and that she believed the child would be safe, however, acknowledging that her actions were irresponsible. Ms. Truskin additionally stated that prior to staying at home with her children, she was a school teacher and hopes one day to return to that position when her children are all school age. She is concerned about her exclusion information being on the internet and available to those who might find it. Ms. Truskin stated that she does not gamble in casinos and believes that implications of abandoning her children to gamble are inaccurate. Subsequent to the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals recommending that Ms. Truskin be placed on the list. However, permitting her to file a petition for removal after a period of 1 year. OEC then filed exceptions to that secondary recommendation that would allow her to request early removal from the list. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Are you Ms. Truskin?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could you please stand and be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Truskin, would you like to make any statements with the board?
Yes, please. My name is Anna Truskin. I thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I would like to encourage the board to accept the hearing officer's recommendation that my placement on the exclusions list be eligible for a petition for removal after 1 year. I understand that I made a terrible error in judgment on that day of June 2021. I went into more detail about my state of mind that day in my statement and evidence for the hearing, but just to summarize, my reason for the errand at Valley Forge Casino was sort of happenstance. I happened to be down the road for a doctor's appointment for my son. My husband had let me know there was a FanDuel promotion for making the in-person deposit. I do have a FanDuel account that I use on occasion, which is really the only gambling I do. I didn't plan to leave my son in the car. When I tried to bring him inside, I was told children couldn't enter the building. If I could go back in time, I would have just gone home after learning that, but I wanted to give you some context for my thinking that day. I knew the errand would be quick as the report details. I was inside for 4 minutes. I was able to leave the car and climate control on while still locking the car and taking the key, the remote key with me. And I parked in the loading area in full view of the front door, and the FanDuel office was located just inside. The memories of that experience still fill me with anxiety and embarrassment 2 years later, and I don't see that changing. What upsets me most about my placement on the exclusions list is not that I can't visit the casino. As I told the hearing officer, I don't have a desire to, but that in my mind, the placement on this list is a way of labeling me as a bad parent. Since 2020, I've stayed at home with my now 4 children, who are all under 5 years old. Being a parent has become my identity. Another reason why this incident has affected me so deeply. Prior to 2020, I was a high school teacher for 9 years. I'm excited to return to the profession as my children get a little older. However, the anxiety of having my name publicly associated with this incident on the exclusions list weighs heavily on me, and I'm worried about how this mistake in my personal life will also affect me professionally. All this to say again that resurfacing these feelings by visiting a casino is not something I have any interest in. I believe the hearing officer in my case made a fair recommendation to allow me to petition for removal after 1 year, and I humbly request that you agree with his assessment, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board for Ms. Truskin? Commissioner Regan?
I just have a question, Ms. Truskin. Did you see the signage all over the casino indicating that you're not permitted to leave children in the car unattended?
I didn't. When I arrived, I parked in the loading area, and then I just went in the front door, and the office was right there. I didn't go onto the casino floor. I didn't notice the signs.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Truskin, I don't know if you're aware, we had a huge campaign about leaving children unattended in vehicles. I mean, even leaving a child for 1 minute could lead to a disaster. And while we're sympathetic to your position and that you're remorseful, we appreciate that because it was a terrible error in judgment, as you say. But we are not inclined to agree with the hearing officer's recommendation. You can always petition to come off the list. It doesn't mean that we'll grant it. So with that being said, yes, I think Commissioner Dermody has a question or comment.
Just a comment, Madam Chair, just a request, actually. I was wondering if there would be an opportunity to discuss the matter in the back, in the room with the members of the board.
Sure. All right, we can
Brief?
take a brief recess.
Take a brief, yeah, that's what I was requesting, a recess.
Okay, we're going to take a five-minute recess. Thanks, everybody, for your indulgence. We're back on the record. Ms. Truskin, as I previously said, we appreciate your expressions of remorse and your understanding that what you did was an exercise in very poor judgment. We are not inclined to necessarily agree with the report and recommendation, but you can always petition us after 1 year to come off, whether it's in the order or not. I mean, that's something you can always choose to do, okay? So with that, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Not at this time. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for coming in. At this point, can I have a motion, please?
Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board adopt in part the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Ann Truskin be placed on the involuntary exclusion list. I further move that the board reject the recommendation of the hearing officer that Ms. Truskin be eligible to petition for removal from the list after 1 year.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The motion is adopted. Again, thank you, Ms. Truskin, for coming in, and thank you for your expressions of remorse.
Thank you.
The final report and recommendation before the board today stems from a request to recover funds confiscated while on the board's self-exclusion list. As the board is aware, when a self-excluded individual is found in Pennsylvania casinos, the act dictates that any winnings possessed by the person can be confiscated from him or her and used to support compulsive and problem gambling programs. On August 1st, 2022, TEG submitted a petition to the board seeking to recover monies confiscated from him while he was on the self-exclusion list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer opposing to the request in part, but agreeing that a certain portion of the funds should be returned to TEG. A hearing in this matter was held on November 10th, 2022. OEC attended the hearings and presented documentary and testimonial evidence. TEG appeared and testified on his own behalf, and he is present here today. The underlying facts in this matter are that on March 7th, 2020, TEG met with a casino compliance representative at Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse, submitted a request to be placed on the self-exclusion list for a period of 5 years. At that time, TEG signed all the necessary paperwork required for placement on the list, which included an acknowledgement that during the period of self-exclusion, TEG could not collect any winnings or recover any losses from gaming while on the list. In July of 2022, while still on the self-exclusion list, TEG was present at Hollywood Casino York and placed a $900 sports wager, resulting in a $1,287 win for a total payout of $2,187. The entire $2,187 was confiscated by casino staff after he was identified as a self-excluded individual. TEG testified that prior to the incident, he had been gaming at Hollywood Casino at Penn National. He was identified as self-excluded, but because staff could not determine his win-loss record at the time, he claimed the casino allowed him to keep his money, and he didn't understand why this situation was being treated differently. He further testified that the casino was using facial recognition, which he believed should have flagged him as self-excluded prior to him entering the casino. TEG also stated that he would not have attempted to cash the sports wager had he known he was not able to game there, pointing out that Hollywood Casino York was not yet open when he placed himself on the list. Subsequently, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that $900 of the funds confiscated, which represents his wager and not winnings, be returned to him, and the matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
I assume you're TEG? Yes. Okay, TEG, you don't have to state your name, but could you stand and just be sworn in by the court reporter?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Would you like to address the board?
I would like to ask, is it security's job to ID me before I come in, or is it not?
Sorry?
The casino? I would ask one of the staff to answer that question. And the answer is actually no.
It's not.
No. It's when you actually go to collect where you have to show identification that you are identified as a self-excluded person.
Okay.
But the bigger question is, as a self-excluded person, you have admitted you have a gambling problem. You have actually accepted the fact that you're not supposed to be there for 5 years. So that's a question you need to ask yourself. Why were you there?
I was there because, like he stated, that it wasn't on the list of the casinos I wasn't allowed to go to when I received the paper.
It's all casinos in Pennsylvania and possibly in the country.
Okay.
Okay? So now you know. All right? All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel. Of the $2,187 confiscated from TEG, $900 shall be returned to him, and the $1,287, which is winnings, shall be remitted to the board.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
That concludes the matters for the
Thank you,
Office of Chief
TEG.
Counsel.
Chad didn't help me out at all when I said to stay up and answer the question.
I know, he just
Good, they like it.
walk on that one.
Yeah. Stephen, thank you, Stephen, Chad. We will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The first matter for your consideration is the approval of an interactive gaming manufacturer license for iGaming Cloud Incorporated. iGaming Cloud is seeking licensure to provide their player account management system to an iGaming operator in Pennsylvania. iGaming Cloud was formed in New Jersey on December 19th, 2017, with its principal place of business in Iselin, New Jersey. An interim authorization was granted to iGaming Cloud on August 29th, 2022. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. As a result, the license approval is ready for your consideration. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to approve the interactive gaming manufacturer license for iGaming Cloud Incorporated.
Any questions or comments from the board? And Office of Enforcement Counsel, what is your position?
Cyrus Petrie, P-I-T-R-E, Office of Enforcement Counsel. Office of Enforcement Counsel does not have any objection.
Thank you. And any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturer license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next for your consideration is the renewal of American Gaming and Electronics Incorporated slot machine supplier license. American Gaming and Electronics provides installation and repair services for slot machines and related gaming equipment. Formed in Illinois on October 20th, 1925, American Gaming and Electronics is a principal place of business in Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to approve the slot machine renewal license of American Gaming Electronics.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant the slot machine supplier renewal license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is the approval of a gaming junket enterprise renewal license for Chai Ho Leong. Chai Ho Leong provides customer travel and entertainment amenities for casino guests. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to approve the gaming junket enterprise renewal license for Chai Ho Leong.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the gaming junket enterprise renewal license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernail seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, there are principal and key employee licenses. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 4 principals and 13 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these licenses.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the principal and key employee licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
There are also key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 17 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these credentials.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board grant the temporary key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Additionally, for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 569 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits and 195 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask the board consider a motion approving the order.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan, seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 3 non-gaming applicants, 4 gaming applicants, and 1 gaming service provider applicant. The applicants were notified that they were being recommended for denial and failed to request a hearing within the specified timeframe. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with the order addressing the applicants who the Office of Enforcement Counsel recommended for denial. I ask the board consider the order approving these denials.
Enforcement Counsel continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee and gaming service provider applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter for your consideration are withdrawal requests. In each case, the license, permit, registration is no longer required. For today's meeting, I have provided the board with 89 gaming and 10 non-gaming applicants. I ask the board consider the orders approving these withdrawals.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant the withdrawal of key employee gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
In addition, we have an order to renew the gaming service provider certification for Calista Electric Incorporated, as well as initially certify Team Clean Incorporated. I have provided you with a draft order and ask the board consider the order certifying Calista Electric Incorporated and Team Clean.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certifications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Finally, for your consideration are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order and an attached list of 5 registered gaming service provider applicants. I ask the board consider the order registering these gaming service providers.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
That concludes the Bureau of Licensing matters. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is Chief Enforcement Counsel Cyrus Petrie.
Good morning. The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 13 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 3 consent agreements, 5 revocations, and 5 involuntary exclusions. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Category 1 licensee and interactive gaming certificate Downs Racing LP doing business as Mohegan, Pennsylvania, and sports wagering operator Unibet Interactive. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel John Crow. Representatives for the licensed entities are present, and at this time, I would request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record, and that all non-attorneys stand and be sworn.
First, the swearing in or the introductions?
The swearing in.
Raise your hands, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And would you introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, good morning. My name is Liv Bijsmans. I'm General Counsel for Unibet.
And could you spell your name, please?
So LIV, first name, last name BIESEMANS.
Hi, Tony Colucci, President of PA.
And could you spell your name, Mr. Colucci?
Yes, Madam Chair. CARLUCCI. I'm getting older. I had to think about that for a second. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Ron Kershaw, CHRZAN. I'm the Director of Compliance at Mohegan, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the board, John Crowe, CROHE, Senior Enforcement Counsel for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. This consent agreement originates from an incident whereby Unibet failed to suspend an interactive gaming account as requested by a patron. Unibet is a sports wagering operator that operates a platform pursuant to an agreement with sports wagering certificate holder Mohegan, Pennsylvania. An individual with the initials AU opened an account with Unibet on May 7, 2021. AU deposited a total of $5,425 over the next 4 days, and then on May 11, 2021, deposited an additional $10,709. Due to the deposit increase on May 11, 2021, Unibet sent AU a responsible gaming email on May 12, 2021, which stated in part that a player can choose between 3 and 30 days for a cool-off period. The email further stated that if you would like more than 30 days, please contact customer service and we can provide a cool-off of 90 days. Unibet refers to players' temporary suspensions as a cool-off period. On May 12, 2021, AU responded to the email stating, need a 90-day cool-off period. Unibet sent additional responsible gaming emails to AU on May 19, 2021 and May 23, 2021. However, Unibet did not suspend AU's account at the time and did not acknowledge AU's request for a 90-day cool-off period until June 2, 2021. Between May 12th, 2021 and June 2nd, 2021, AU deposited a total of $60,887, won a total of $1,423,977, was rewarded a total of $3,000, lost a total of $1,452,219.92, and withdrew a total of $35,644. On June 2nd, 2021, AU contacted Unibet and inquired as to available promotions. Unibet responded stating that they knew a cool-off was requested on May 12, 2021, and asked AU if she still wanted to place their account in a cool-off status. AU's account was then suspended by Unibet. After further discussion between AU and Unibet on June 3rd, 2021, Unibet told AU that she never set her account to cool-off. However, AU did follow instructions to request a 90-day cool-off by emailing her request to Unibet, which was not acknowledged by Unibet in a timely manner, allowing AU to game for an additional 21 days before her account was suspended following further inquiry. On June 3rd, 2021, AU filed an iGaming complaint with the Bureau of Casino Compliance, wherein AU explained that her account was not suspended as she had requested. Casino Compliance then began an initial review and notified Unibet of the complaint. Upon notification of the complaint made by the patron, Unibet immediately conducted a thorough internal review of its policies, procedures, and literature surrounding its responsible gaming cool-off option to identify and resolve any inconsistencies. Unibet optimized some of the wording of the responsible gaming emails to provide greater customer clarity and subsequently remove any reference to a 90-day cool-off option from both its site and responsible gaming emails. The Office of Enforcement Counsel, Mohegan, Pennsylvania, and Unibet respectfully request that the board approve the consent agreement and stipulations of settlement, and that Mohegan, Pennsylvania, and Unibet pay civil penalty of $7,500 as well as a $2,500 administrative fee for costs incurred by board staff in connection with the investigations into this matter. If it now pleases the board, we would ask to turn over the presentation to Mohegan, Pennsylvania, and Unibet to update the board with regard to their actions towards the patron.
Thank you. Mohegan and Unibet, would you like to address the board?
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Obviously, Tony Colucci, President, Mohegan, PA. First off, we make no excuses We're going to fully reimburse the patron for all the monies. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to fully reimburse the patron for all deposits. I'm going to have Liv explain what we're going to do so this does not happen again in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As Mr. Carlucci said, the only fair and equitable solution is to reimburse the deposits that were made between the timing of the request of the cool-off and the actual activation of the cool-off. That's a total of 22 days. We hope that underlines our acknowledgement of the seriousness of this infraction, but also our commitment to our operations in Pennsylvania, as well as our responsible gaming approach. In terms of remediation that we've taken since, as mentioned, we have revisited our policies and procedures. We have revisited the wording of our emails to the customers, to make sure that the email is clear and transparent and customers knows exactly what to do and how to activate responsible gaming tools. We've also removed the confusing wording about the 90-day cool-off periods. In addition, we have recruited since a responsible gaming manager and one responsible gaming analyst, so that anything that relates to responsible gaming specifically is now a dedicated responsibility rather than a shared responsibility across teams. And also, since we have rolled out our proprietary system, which is called the Player Safety Early Detection System, it's a methodology that generates a list every day of customers that meet certain indicators. They're flagged as potential risk customers, and then they are revisited by our responsible gaming team, and when we feel the need to intervene by either sending an RG communication or reaching out to the customer in a one-on-one contact, that will be done. I just wanted to give you the latest update of the actual active cool-offs that we have on our site today, because it is our second most used responsible gaming tool. In the monthly report that we sent to the Gaming Control Board, we currently have 1,532 active cool-offs, so it is a tool that is actively used by our customer, that is successfully used by our customers. So again, we hope that underlines that we have taken note of the situation and we've tried to put all the measures in place to prevent this from happening going forward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything else from Enforcement Council?
Nothing further.
Okay. All right, at this time, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Downs Racing LP, doing business as Mohegan Sun Pocono, and Unibet Interactive, Inc., as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted. Thank you very much, and thank you for the changes that you've made to address this situation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Category 1 licensee and interactive gaming certificate, Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, doing business as Hollywood Casino Penn National Racecourse. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel John Crow. Representatives for the licensed entity are present, and at this time, I request that those individuals please stand and be sworn, and then introduce themselves for the record. Non-attorneys.
I guess I'm technically acting in a non-attorney capacity, so.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Always an attorney, Alex.
This is true. Alex Vizda, HVIZDA.
Alana Sacerdoti, ALANA SACERDOTE.
Chair, members of the board, John Crow once again for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. This consent agreement originates from incidents of interactive gaming self-exclusion violations by Hollywood Casino. On November 18th, 2020, an individual with the initials AS created an account on HollywoodCasino.com. On September 19th, 2020, AS created a Barstool Sportsbook and iGaming account. On May 19th, 2021, AS enrolled in the iGaming self-exclusion list for a period of 5 years. On May 20th, 2021, after receiving notice from the board's Office of Compulsive and Problem Gaming regarding AS's iGaming self-exclusion, Hollywood Casino designated AS as self-excluded in the PenGen system. PenGen is the system that feeds updated information to player account management platform provided by White Hat Gaming Incorporated to the Hollywood Casino iGaming platform and the Barstool Sportsbook iGaming platform. AS was properly locked out of his HollywoodCasino.com account on May 20th, 2021. However, a programming error resulted in AS's Barstool Sportsbook account automatically unlocking on June 13th, 2021. AS's Barstool Sportsbook and iGaming account remained unlocked until Hollywood Casino suspended AS's account on September 28th, 2021. On October 5th, 2021, AS reported to the board's Office of Compulsive and Problem Gaming that he was able to game on the Barstool Sportsbook while on the iGaming self-exclusion list. While AS's account was unlocked between June 13th, 2021 and September 28th, 2021, AS deposited $3,624.34, wagered $25,138.93, and withdrew $2,941.20. AS was on the iGaming self-exclusion list during that time. In response to this incident, Hollywood Casino conducted an internal audit and discovered that 4 additional individuals who were on the iGaming self-exclusion list were able to conduct gaming activity on the Barstool Sportsbook iGaming platform after the effective date of their enrollment on the iGaming self-exclusion list as a result of the same programming error. An individual, SM, self-excluded from iGaming on July 18th, 2021. SM's account was unlocked on August 15th, 2021, and was not relocked until November 8th, 2021. During that time, SM deposited $2,000 and wagered $25,385.28. An individual, CH, self-excluded from iGaming on July 24th, 2021. CH's account was unlocked on September 20th, 2021, and was not relocked until November 8th, 2021. During that time, CH deposited $10 and wagered $16.50. An individual, ZL, self-excluded from iGaming on June 30th, 2021. ZL's account was unlocked from July 1st, 2021, and was not relocked until November 8th, 2021. During that time, ZL deposited $615, wagered $1,559.51, and withdrew $391.32. An individual, MH, self-excluded from iGaming on June 30th, 2021. MH's account was unlocked on July 30th, 2021, and was not relocked until November 8th, 2021. During that time, MH deposited $18,360, wagered $111,808.08, and withdrew $11,000. A total of 5 individuals were able to conduct gaming activity on the Barstool Sportsbook iGaming platform while on the iGaming self-exclusion list in violation of the Act and the regulations promulgated thereunder. The Office of Enforcement Counsel and Hollywood Casino respectfully request that the board approve the consent agreement and stipulations of settlement, and that Hollywood Casino pay a civil penalty of $45,000, as well as the $2,500 administrative fee for costs incurred by the board staff in connections with investigations into this matter.
Hollywood Casino.
Yes, just briefly, Madam Chair, members of the board, Alex Vizda, Director of Compliance. I'm joined here today by Alana Sacerdoti, who is the Senior Manager of Responsible Gaming for Penn Interactive. The fact pattern here with all 5 individuals is that they opted to use the temporary suspension option in the app, which locked their account. They then subsequently signed up for a iGaming self-exclusion, which also applied the lock on their account. But there was a bug that was introduced into the system during an update in May of 2021 that resulted in when the temporary suspension would run out, it would remove both of the locks. This was fixed by another update to the system in August of 2021. And as soon as it was brought to Penn's attention, we instructed our platform provider, White Hat Gaming, to do a full audit of the system, which identified these other individuals. The accounts have all since been relocked, and we have steps in place to make sure this happen. And we are transitioning to our we're transitioning to our own proprietary platform that we'll own and operate later this year, which will allow us to identify these things before they happen, but if something new that we've not experienced before happens, we'll be able to jump on it very quickly and hopefully prevent something like this from happening.
Any questions or comments from the board? Well, thank you for taking steps. That was, technology is awful if it doesn't work, right?
Yes, there you go.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, LLC, doing business as Hollywood Casino, a Penn National Race Course as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and interactive gaming manufacturer Evolution US LLC. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement John Crow. A representative for the licensed entity is present, and at this time, I request that the individual be sworn in and then introduce himself for the record.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Jeff Patchen. I'm the head of compliance for Evolution North America.
And would you spell your name, Mr. Patchen?
Patchen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chair, members of the board, this consent agreement originates from Evolution allowing an unlicensed employee to deal at a live table in its live dealer studio. On November 1st, 2021, at 3:33 p.m., an unlicensed employee who was working at Evolution as a game presenter trainee was discovered dealing on an Evolution live blackjack table. Evolution stated that this incident was the result of a miscommunication with the floor management department. The unlicensed employee was removed from the table game upon discovery that he was not authorized to be dealing. At 3:33 p.m., the unlicensed employee sat down at the blackjack table, scanned his identification card, and began dealing a hand by dealing one card to himself. Dealing the first card to himself was an incorrect procedure, as dealing should not begin with the dealer. Another dealer approached the unlicensed employee and halted play. At 3:36 p.m., the unlicensed employee picked up the card he had dealt to himself and started to return the card to the shoe, then placed the card into the discount rack. At 3:45 p.m., the unlicensed employee began to deal a new hand, dealing cards to spots 6, 5, then 4, placing each card face down. This was an incorrect procedure, as only one patron was gaming at the time at spot 4. Furthermore, the cards dealt to the patron were required to be dealt face up pursuant to the rules of the game. At 3:45 p.m., a table game supervisor approached and attempted to correct the hand. At 3:46 p.m., the cards were flipped over and placed in the correct position. At 3:47 p.m., the hand ended, and with the patron winning a $40 wager and losing a $5 bonus wager, netting a total of $35 for the patron. At 3:50 p.m., the unlicensed employee was tapped out by another dealer after a service support specialist realized that the unlicensed employee should not have been dealing. The game was not canceled as the patron had a winning hand. The unlicensed employee dealt a total of one completed hand. The Office of Enforcement Counsel and Evolution respectively requests that the board approve the consent agreement and stipulations of settlement, and that Evolution pay a civil penalty of $7,500 as well as a $2,500 administrative fee for costs incurred by board staff in connection with investigations into this matter.
Mr. Patchen, would you like to address the board?
Sure. I'd just like to say it was a miscommunication between staff, and this has not occurred since the incident in November of 2021.
I don't know who was training that guy, but they didn't do a very good job. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, the question I have is, from what you said, that he logged in with his, I guess, his pass to start dealing. Why was it when he placed his pass, it didn't pick up that he was unlicensed?
That's a great question. So licensing in our systems, we don't have those identifications when they badge. It's something I can take a look at. This gentleman happened to have come in for the first day. It was his first day on the job, and they thought that it was his first day to be a dealer, not first day on the job. Typically, what we do is when we have employees start, they go through an academy, which is training. They learn how to deal. When the gentleman showed up and said it was his first day, again, they were confused. He was on the gaming floor. A dealer had basically, there's a distress button if somebody's feeling sick or needs to get off a table. And a gentleman had pushed that button that was actively on the table. And it happened to be he was standing there at the time, and they said, "Go ahead, cover the table for us." And he shouldn't have been doing that, as it was his first day. But that is an excellent question, and I can take a look at that internally to see if there's some improvements we can make with badging in functionality.
I would imagine that if somebody's unlicensed and they put their badge there, it should automatically say, no, this person's not, doesn't have a license, so can't do what they're doing. It would have prevented the whole thing. So we would like to just know later on what affirmative steps you may have taken as a result of that, okay?
Okay, I will certainly take a look at that.
Thank you.
Good point, Sarah. Good point. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam.
Real quick. So it was brought to our attention that this guy is no longer in the industry?
He is not no longer employed by Evolution. I'm not sure where he went or if he is still in the industry, but he is not with Evolution. That's correct.
That couldn't have been a good experience for him.
I would have thought that he would have spoken up, but I think being his first day, he was nervous and maybe didn't know what to make of it and didn't say anything.
Maybe thought it was a test.
Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Evolution US LLC as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next 5 matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the revocation of gaming employee occupation permits and a non-gaming employee registration previously issued by the board. The complaints in each matter have been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Chair, members of the board, John Crow once again for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Rochelle Vessels. Ms. Vessels was previously employed as a table games dealer at Live Casino Hotel Philadelphia. Over the course of multiple shifts while working as a table games dealer at Live Casino, Ms. Vessels misdealt in a manner which gave certain players an unfair advantage over the house in violation of the rules of the game, incorrectly paid winnings, and incorrectly failed to collect losses. Ms. Vessels is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Rochelle Vessels.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I do, Madam Chair, just out of curiosity, she's a longtime dealer. Was this an act of vengeance, or what prompted this shift?
There was no indication in the investigation that there was any collusion with patrons, that any one particular patron was working with her, and there was no apparent explanation as to whether or not it was just lackadaisicalness from having been there so long, or there was intention behind it, but she was terminated as a result, and it was determined that there was no collusion, so we proceeded with the facts on the acts that she committed.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the revocation of Rochelle Vessels' gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Kelsey Scorado, SCI-RROTTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Clanny Brown. Ms. Brown was previously employed as a security ambassador at Live Casino Philadelphia. While working as a security ambassador at Live Casino Philadelphia, Ms. Brown stole another security ambassador's AirPods. She was charged with misdemeanor theft as a result. The status of the charge is not publicly available. Ms. Brown is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Clanny Brown.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the revocation of Claney Brown's gaming employee occupational permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Juan Sanchez, Sanchez, Assistant Enforcement Counsel for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Cynthia Tomko. Ms. Tomko was previously employed as an EVS attendant at Hollywood Casino Morgantown. Ms. Tomko was terminated from Hollywood Morgantown for violations of work conduct rules. Subsequently, Ms. Tomko sent several threatening emails to Hollywood Morgantown staff. No criminal charges were filed in this matter. Ms. Tomko is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Cynthia Tomko.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the revocation of Cynthia Tomko's non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Assistant Enforcement Counsel Steve Gorman, Gorman. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Davis Hu. Mr. Hu was last employed as a table games dealer at Harrah's, Philadelphia. Mr. Hu was working outside of the gaming industry when he used his employer's debit card to gamble online with FanDuel without permission. Mr. Hu was charged and convicted of felony access device fraud. Mr. Hu is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Davis Hu.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the revocation of David Hughes' gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
Favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Aya Matthews. Ms. Matthews was previously employed as a cage cashier at Wind Creek. Ms. Matthews was working in her official capacity when she stole $260 in cash from the register. Following her shift, the cage management discovered a variance in the drawer and notified surveillance. Surveillance saw that Ms. Matthews had slid the cash up her sleeve while she was at the register. Ms. Matthews was charged by the Pennsylvania State Police with misdemeanor theft by unlawful taking. The criminal case is still pending. Ms. Matthews is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that Ms. Matthews' gaming employee occupation permit be revoked.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the revocation of Ayala Matthews' gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals whose presence in a licensed facility are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted, all filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each instance, if the board orders the proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of their inimical conduct may be placed on the board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
The next matter on the agenda is a request to place Brian Lawrence on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Lawrence pinched a $125 wager while playing craps at Mohegan, Pennsylvania. A dealer saw the pinch and confronted Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence became irate towards table games employees and other patrons. Surveillance confirmed that Mr. Lawrence did pinch his bet. Security confronted Mr. Lawrence, but he refused to pay restitution. While walking away from security, Mr. Lawrence made several harassing statements towards security. The Pennsylvania State Police stopped Mr. Lawrence in the parking lot before allowing him to leave. Mr. Lawrence was permanently evicted from the casino. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Brian Lawrence on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Brian Lawrence to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Damian Scott on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Scott was playing blackjack at Live Casino Philadelphia when he hit the back of the head of another patron. This resulted in both men standing up to physically fight each other. Mr. Scott picked up the other patron and slammed to the floor as other patrons tried to intervene. Security had to physically remove Mr. Scott from the other patron. Mr. Scott was charged by the Pennsylvania State Police with misdemeanor simple assault and summary harassment. Mr. Scott was later found not guilty of these charges by the Municipal Court of Philadelphia. Mr. Scott had similar violent incidences at 3 other Pennsylvania casinos in the past. Mr. Scott was permanently evicted by all 4 casinos. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Damian Scott on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Damian Scott to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Thomas Monahan, M-O-N-A-G-H-A-N with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Excuse me. Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Tyjon McCreary on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. McCreary attempted to enter Presque Downs and Casino and was refused entry as a permanently banned individual. He was confronted by Pennsylvania State Police for trespassing and failed to comply. He was criminally charged and convicted of trespass and resisting arrest. Further, Mr. McCreary has violated his permanent eviction for Presque on at least 13 occasions and has 10 convictions for trespassing. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Tyjon McCreary on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? How come it took so long for you to move to exclude him? He violated like 13 times.
On a criminal trespass? Well, it takes some time to get to some of these cases.
Okay.
So, you know,
All right.
when his name came up, you know, we took
And
a
here we
look at
are.
all the cases.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Tyshon McCreary to the BGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Juan Sanchez, Assistant Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Paris Penamon on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While Mr. Penamon was a patron at Presque Downs and Casino, he left his 12-year-old child unattended for approximately 10 minutes in a running vehicle while he went inside the casino to place sports wagers. Mr. Penamon was not evicted from the casino, and no criminal charges were filed as a result of this incident. At this time, OEC requests the board place Paris Penamon on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Paris Penamon to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The final matter on the board's agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Stephen Seibert on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While Mr. Seibert was a patron of Hollywood Casino at Penn National, he stole a cell phone of another patron. Mr. Seibert was permanently evicted from the casino. The Pennsylvania State Police were notified and criminal charges were filed. Mr. Seibert pled guilty to a reduced charge in this matter. At this time, OEC requests the board place Stephen Seibert on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Stephen Seibert to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business.
Thank you, Cyrus. The last item on the agenda for today is public comment. As I understand it, Eric Epstein has signed up to make a public comment. So, Mr. Epstein, would you step forward, please?
Thank you for not putting me on the public exclusion list for public speaking.
Not yet.
I know I have 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, let me know when the clock starts.
It's starting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm glad I could add some joviality to this. This is my 4th testimony. The testimony is similar to the ones I submitted on December 14th, 2022, June 15th, 2022, September 21st, 2022. So I'm not going to go over it. Suffice to say that we're requesting that there be a public opportunity to speak at every meeting. We'll have to amp up our commitment to that since we're not getting responses from you when we file right to know requests. So I'm going to make 5 more and then we will pursue litigation. Try to do this in a way that was seamless. And I don't know why your entity has this unusual protocol of public comment 3 minutes once every 3-minute meetings. I would point out, and I try to communicate, that you've indemnified yourself. If you look at what you say at every meeting, you have the right to deny a request. Should the subject be a pending matter before the board or one which may reasonably be expected to come before the board in a contested on-the-record proceeding. I've been here at every meeting since, and you routinely, public policy issues are talked about. Today we heard about the 4-pronged program for gambling. Before that, we heard about the wonderful benefits of the gaming advisory councils. These are not proprietary. These are not quasi-judicially protected. So what we're suggesting to you, and the other thing I'd like, I've suggested at every meeting to introduce this into the hearing. They're not. We read the minutes of every hearing. We look at your website very closely. So we're hoping that this will be introduced as a fact into your record, and we're making 5 requests, same 5 requests that we've made. Frankly, I don't know how you don't respond to a right to know request, so that'll be appealed if that's the course you want to go. Just so you know, last week we won a case that took 7 years, 5 court cases. We're not going away. So public participation at every meeting at the beginning and at the end. The reason for this, which is routine at like school board meetings, in case you're discussing something, you can get some constructive input. And there was a number of issues today, which I would have liked to have afforded input. And at the end, for non-agenda related items. Number 2, in the alternative, this will be the 4th time I make the request, a legal opinion. If the opinion is ignored, we'll sue. I just have no other options left. Number 3, we would request you do a quasi-judicial exemption. And we've made this recommendation before, similar to the PUC. If you're adjudicating a case, I get it. You can't really have public participation. If you're not, the public can participate. The other 2 issues that we brought to your attention is, I don't know if you do, but we'd like to know if you do have a policy should skill games fall under your purview. And the final issue is, and we've submitted a number of right to know requests on this, is attending your hearings. The child abandonment issue is perennial, it's chronic, it's difficult, but there's an uneven disciplinary code. If you listen to it today, Presque Island almost never prosecutes, whereas Live does. What we're compiling is an inventory of all the child abandonment cases. And what we're trying to do, or at least ask if there's a uniform policy. I understand what you did today sent a pretty clear signal. And it would be good if we send a uniform signal to folks that, and I believe you're probably at a zero tolerance on this issue. It seemed like it today. But when you look at the enforcement, 50% of the time, there is a legal proceeding, and 50% of the time there isn't. So these, and you also have the option. I'm going to submit these to you, not to respond. If you don't respond, I'll submit right or no request, and then we'll just follow it from there. But I felt since June was enough time for you guys to get together and put a policy together one way or the other, Madam Chair, and I do appreciate you pronouncing my name right. They got it wrong at the Turnpike yesterday. Yeah, and I'm sure they're wringing their hands over that.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room that wishes to address the board at this time? If not, that concludes today's meeting, and the next public meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 26, 2023, at 10 a.m. at this location. With that being said, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Ralston makes the motion.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.